This is a special report. Commitment 2016. What you need to know. Live on Channel 8 WMTW.
We are less than 12 hours away from Election Day 2016. 25 hours from now, the polls will be closed. Hello and welcome to this Commitment 2016 special. I'm Steve Minnick.
And I'm Megan Torgeson. By now you've seen all the campaign ads, polls, and speeches. And over the next hour, we're going to show you exactly what you need to know before you get into the voting booth tomorrow.
We will tell you why Maine actually matters in this presidential race and what could happen if the state's electoral college votes are split. We are also going to examine all 6 of Maine's ballot questions, and yes, there are 6, including the hot button issues in questions 1 and 3, which deal with legalizing marijuana and expanding background checks for gun purchases.
Some other races. In the race for Congress in District 1, we're going to show you our conversations with Democratic incumbent Chellie Pingree and her challenger, Republican Mark Holbrook. In District 2, it's a rematch from 2014 with Democrat Emily Kane challenging Republican Congressman Bruce Poliquin. And no doubt you've been seeing ads for the New Hampshire Senate race here on Channel 8. We're going to hear from both candidates later in the show.
But let's start with the race for president. Hundreds of millions of dollars have been spent, and believe it or not, there is a scenario in which Maine's 2nd congressional district would become the deciding factor. If Donald Trump wins Florida, North Carolina, Ohio, Nebraska, New Hampshire, and CD2 here in Maine, that would get him to the magic number of 270 electoral votes. In this situation, he wins the White House. In that same situation, if all of Maine's 4 electoral votes go to Clinton, there is a tie with each candidate winning 269 electoral votes. In the event of a tie, the Republican-controlled House of Representatives would choose the next president. Trump's path to victory is still narrow. If any one of those swing states goes to Clinton, Maine's totals essentially become irrelevant. But right now, Maine matters, and that is why the campaigns have been spending money here and visiting Maine. WMTW News 8's political reporter Paul Merrill explains.
Donald Trump has held 5 campaign rallies in Maine this year, 2 in Portland, 2 in Bangor, and 1 in Lisbon.
The people of Maine have great common sense.
His sons Donald and Eric visited too.
Well, if I look at the support in Maine in general, it's been incredible. We're going to win the state.
USM political science professor Ron Schmidt says the Trump campaign focus on Maine probably comes from the candidate himself.
With another candidate, I would look at that and say, well, you know, he's doing it for the party. Even though he thinks he'll lose that state, he's trying to make sure they hold on to congressional seats or whatever. But he hasn't shown a lot of interest in doing that. So my guess would be that his gut is telling him that he's got a shot there.
Hillary Clinton has not visited Maine. Her daughter campaigned in Bangor and Orono. Tim Kaine talked with us in Portland.
Well, look, it's close, and that's why I'm here. We want to win Maine, and we want to win that 2nd CD.
Bernie Sanders rallied Democrats 1 week before Election Day.
Our job is not just electing Hillary Clinton president. Our job is to transform this nation.
We asked Professor Schmidt why we didn't see Clinton visit Maine herself.
Frankly, northern New England has always been more of a sort of Bernie Sanders-style Democratic territory than a Hillary Clinton-style territory. So it may well be that they've made the conclusion that it's actually better for them to have Senator Sanders here than it is for her to take time out from, say, North Carolina to come here.
Now, only the 2 states, Maine and Nebraska, split their electoral votes, but that has never happened here in Maine. Nebraska has split its votes once. That happened back in 2008. 1 went to Barack Obama. The other 4 went to John McCain.
And as we briefly touched on earlier, New Hampshire has been a heavily fought over state in this election, even though it only offers 4 electoral votes. Paul Merrill is live in Durham, where just a few hours ago, President Obama campaigned for Hillary Clinton. Hey, Paul.
Hey, Megan, you know, earlier today, thousands of people, most of them students and most of them skipping class, snaked their way through this tennis court to get through security lines for a chance to see the President of the United States in the flesh. Now, of course, it's just fencing and caution tape. That's because right now Air Force One is somewhere between New Hampshire and Philadelphia as President Obama makes his way to join 2 first ladies and a former president. The 2 Obamas and 2 Clintons will rally Democrats in Pennsylvania tonight, just about 12 hours before polls open. Now, when the president hit the stage here at the University of New Hampshire earlier this afternoon, the crowd erupted. He really got a rock star treatment here. Most of the nearly 8,000 people, as I mentioned, were students, and President Obama's message was really geared toward young people. At one point, he joked that some of the students here at UNH were 10 years old 8 years ago when he first won the White House in 2008. And he framed this election up as more than just a vote against Donald Trump. Maybe we'll get that sound for you later in the program. Sorry about that. There was also a lot of talk about female voters. The women vote here today. New Hampshire's Governor Maggie Hassan introduced the president. She is locked right now in a tough fight against Republican Senator Kelly Ayotte, who has been seen as a flip-flopper on the issue of whether she will support Donald Trump, and some say that it hurt her in the polls. So Trump could actually be a factor in New Hampshire sending 4 women to Washington in January. That's the latest live here in Durham, New Hampshire. Paul Merrill, WMTW News 8.
And much more from Paul coming up a little later in this program. Now, Donald Trump himself is making a last-minute pitch to voters in Manchester, New Hampshire himself. WMTW News 8's Morgan Sturdivant is there.
Hey there, Steve. Yeah, they continue to pack people into the Southern New Hampshire University Arena here. There are people behind me, there are people to my sides, in front of me, and even above me. Now, the rally here is set to begin at 8 o'clock tonight, and that's when Donald Trump and Mike Pence will be here at the arena to talk with thousands of supporters from the Granite State. Now, New Hampshire is extremely important for Trump. As we've been talking about, it's going to be difficult to become president without getting the electoral votes from New Hampshire. So we spoke to one couple from Missouri about why they want to see Trump elected.
I'm very afraid for this country right now, and I think something needs to be done. I think Mr. Trump's the one to do it.
I'm from Brazil, and I love this country. I think Mr. Trump, they have the best idea for this country. If you lose elections tomorrow, you lose the country.
So again, the rally is set to begin here at 8. We will be live streaming this. You can check this out on WMTW.com, on our mobile app, and you can also make sure to have us with you tomorrow as you head out to the polls and for continued election coverage. Live in Manchester, New Hampshire tonight, Morgan Sturdivant, WMTW News 8.
Thank you, Morgan. Things just getting started. The race for Congress in Maine's 2nd District between Emily Kane and Bruce Poliquin has been tight ever since it started. The latest poll from the Portland Press Herald and the University of New Hampshire shows Kane with an extremely slim 1 percentage point lead. Paul Merrill caught up with both candidates recently, and we start with challenger Emily Kane.
2 years ago, Emily Kane lost this race by 5 percentage points.
I was in Oxford County.
Speaking with us in her Orono home, Kane says everything is different now.
The last campaign, admittedly, was heavily informed by the national agenda, national Democrats. This time it's not. This time, this is my campaign.
Thank you. Thanks for taking a few minutes with me.
Kane announced her plans to challenge Bruce Poliquin again in 2016, 4 months after her 2014 loss. Some criticized her for jumping right back into the fray, but she tells us she didn't want to waste any time.
You can always try to buy more TV or send more mail, but you only get so many days. And I've been spending every day connecting with people across the district.
Kane has worked at the University of Maine and spent 10 years as a state legislator. Republicans say Kane's work experience is thin. She defends her resume.
I have worked full-time, part-time, and multiple jobs at the same time, just like people across Maine. I'm Emily Kane. Nice to meet you. How are you?
If Kane is going to win this race, she'll need the support of more than just Democrats. She points out that she was able to work with the Republican administration in Augusta.
Whether it's Governor LePage or Donald Trump or any Republican or Democrat, the key to being a credible legislator is being someone who can agree as loudly as they disagree and not make it personal.
If voters send her to Congress, Kane's work will have to focus on strengthening the economy of Maine's mostly rural 2nd District.
We need to fight against the free trade deals that have left us with empty paper mills.
She says the path forward involves strengthening infrastructure and finding new ways to build on the Maine traditions of farming, fishing, forestry, and manufacturing.
It's probably not going to look exactly like it did before, but we certainly have the pieces.
Right now, polls show Poliquin in the lead, but Kaine says polls didn't predict the outcome 2 years ago, so she's just going to keep working hard every day.
This is a race that's going to be tight till the end. How are you?
And meanwhile, 2nd District Republican Bruce Poliquin is hoping to win a second term. And here's a look at what the congressman is and is not saying.
We're working with everybody.
We met Bruce Poliquin on the railroad bridge that spans the Androscoggin River between Lewiston and Auburn to talk about what he's been doing in Washington.
I am sleeping in my office and working as hard as humanly possible with Republicans and Democrats in a very bipartisan way to build a stronger economy and more jobs.
That's right. Poliquin sleeps in his office in this pull-down bed, though his staffers say it's not uncommon to get an email from the congressman in the middle of the night.
Wonderful.
Maybe that work ethic is why Poliquin has been able to do in his first 2 years in Congress what his predecessor couldn't do in 10 years, pass a bill. That bill had to do with enforcing child support judgments. Poliquin also worked with the Maine delegation to keep 900 manufacturing jobs at Maine's New Balance plant. The first-term Republican admits it can be frustrating to try to get things done in Washington.
It's very slow, it's very tedious, but you've got to get in front of the sofa, not hide behind the sofa. You've got to push.
We had to push Poliquin on some positions he's reluctant to share. We started with Maine's ballot questions. It sounds like you'll be voting no on question 3.
Yes, I will be.
Can we run down the other ones? Marijuana, you think?
Well, I'm not getting involved in those because those are before the people of Maine. It's a state issue.
Poliquin also won't explicitly say that he's voting for Donald Trump. Does it say something that you won't publicly support your party's nominee for the White House?
What it does say is that I'm focused on the work for my constituents.
Poliquin's first re-election bid is a rematch. Democrat Emily Kaine, who lost by 5 percentage points 2 years ago, is running again. Poliquin says a major contrast in this matchup is that he spent decades working in the private sector.
My opponent has zero experience creating jobs. And the biggest issue in front of our district is we need more and better jobs. I know how to do it. She doesn't. Retirees.
And in Maine's 1st District, Republican Mark Holbrook is challenging incumbent Democrat Chellie Pingree. We will take a look at that race later in this program.
And we have a lot to get to in tonight's show. Mainers will be voting on 6 ballot questions tomorrow.
And one of those referendums could legalize marijuana. Coming up, we'll show you what is happening in Colorado after marijuana was legalized there.
And Mainers are split on whether to expand background checks on gun transfers. Find out one of the biggest criticisms of question 3. This is Commitment 2016, what you need to know. And we'll be right back.
You're watching Commitment 2016, what you need to know, live on Channel 8 WMTW.
Welcome back. Tomorrow, Mainers will decide whether marijuana should be legal statewide. It is a growing trend. Maine is one of 5 states that is voting on legalization this year. Marijuana is already legal in Washington, Oregon, and Colorado. And if you remember, back in 2013, marijuana was legalized in the city of Portland. But how will it impact us if it is legal statewide? Paul Merrill went to Colorado to find out more about the effects of legalized recreational marijuana there.
There's one thing we heard from everyone we interviewed in Colorado about the effects of legalizing marijuana. The federal government is not doing enough.
And typically the best way to do that.
On Monday, we introduced you to Ashley Grace, the chief marketing officer for Charlotte's Web Hemp. He told us there isn't enough medical cannabis research to satisfy the federal government because institutions are hesitant to launch studies out of fear that doing so may jeopardize federal funding they receive.
And so you get this loop of ridiculousness that prevents the accurate research and that we really need.
You usually find out
that position was echoed by Elan Nelson of the Medicine Man Dispensary from Tuesday's story.
And some blackberry kush. It's been frustrating for us in the industry to see that the science isn't there because the federal government is really standing in the way of progress.
But the federal government still taxes the incomes of people in the pot business at rates as high as 70% because the IRS prohibits certain deductions in this line of work. And that's not all. Because so many banks are afraid to touch the marijuana industry, all of the transactions have to be in cash. This is just some of what's on site here at this location. When's the last time you saw $12,000 in cold hard cash?
It makes us a sitting duck. We've had people attempt to rob us both at our grills as well as at our shops.
The data in there.
In Wednesday's story, you heard from Ben Court, who helps manage an addiction and recovery center. He told us President Obama shoulders the blame for the Wild West aspects of legalized weed.
As our first African-American president, as a man who consumed when he was young, and he would have had such a voice with a young urban population. And I think a couple of words from him saying, man, slow down, ease up, it just would have been so beautiful.
Has a lot less support in Colorado.
Thursday's story featured Colorado Springs Mayor John Suthers, a former federal prosecutor himself.
Even when you have a sympathetic U.S. attorney, when it comes to marijuana, they can't move without permission from DOJ in Washington, and for the most part, they've told them to lay off on anything having to do with state marijuana laws.
In Colorado, the job of regulating this new industry has fallen to state leaders like Barbara Brohl. She's the executive director of the Colorado Department of Revenue.
It's really that we rely on the federal government to do a lot of things in other industries that they don't do in this industry.
Essentially, Colorado has had to create its own version of the FDA. We asked Brohl what advice she has for other states that may legalize.
It'll always cost you more than you think. It'll take longer than you think to really implement a good program, and it's harder than you think.
Pot is taxed. The state took in $141 million last year, and a little more than $40 million of that went to schools. The rest went to drug education, prevention, and treatment.
What this does with the taxing model that we have in place is it allows this industry to pay for itself and the surrounding social costs that are attendant to this industry.
So the state's not getting rich on this?
No, the state is not getting rich on this, but it's also not having to divert money that would go to other things to this.
This is not the legalization of small amounts of marijuana.
Perhaps the best take on Colorado's experiment comes from Greenwood Village Police Chief John Jackson.
I think more work needs to be done before we just say this is okay.
And in a recent poll by the Portland Press Herald and University of New Hampshire, question 1 had 50% support, with 41% saying they would vote against it.
Turning now to question 3, and the battle there also very tight. Yes is leading no by 9 percentage points in the latest poll. The question asks if background checks on gun transfers should be expanded. Here's a breakdown on question 3.
Gun violence is an epidemic.
It's been almost 7 years since Wayne and Judy Richardson lost their daughter Darian. She was 25 years old when she was shot during a Portland home invasion in January 2010. She died almost 2 months later. Police found the gun that shot Darian during the course of a different murder investigation.
When they told us they had the handgun that was used to kill our daughter, we said, great, now we're going to find the person who did this. They ran into a dead end because there was no background check when that gun was purchased the second time.
Darian's killer is still out there.
He could be standing behind us in a line in a grocery store, in a movie theater. We don't know.
The Richardsons say expanded background check requirements would have created a paper trail on the murder weapon, or may have even stopped Darian's killer from getting the gun in the first place.
If somebody is, hell-bent on creating mayhem with a weapon, this law is not going to stop it.
Craig Poulin is a retired Maine State Police colonel.
I'm not sitting here saying that I'm opposed to background checks. I'm not. I mean, I was in law enforcement for 30 years. I have been around it long enough, but I also know what works and what doesn't work.
This goes in.
Question 2 includes some exceptions. You can transfer a firearm to certain family members or share a gun while hunting. Poulin and other opponents fear this measure is too broad and would criminalize innocent exchanges.
When you go hunting, you're not in somebody's back pocket. You may split up by a half, 3/4 of a mile.
I've never heard so much talk about borrowing guns as I've had since this has come out.
The Richardsons are adamant that question 2 aims to close a loophole that helps criminals get guns.
People say, well, they're going to get it on the black market, but that's what the black market is. That's how guns get into the black market. They're sold privately.
And that was Paul Merrill reporting. Should Maine raise taxes to help fund education?
Still coming up, we hear from both sides of question 2 and find out how much you would have to make to see your taxes go up.
Also, is Maine's minimum wage too high? Hear why some say it should go up as we examine question 4. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Maine voters will face 5 citizen-initiated ballot questions on Election Day. Question 2 asks Mainers if they want to raise taxes on high-income earners to help fund public education.
And again, where can we find this book?
In 2003, Mainers voted that the state should fund public education costs at 55%. It's never happened.
An entire generation of kids has gone through our Maine public school system in arguably underfunded schools. Question 2 is the solution to that, and the sales taxes have increased.
John Kaczynski is the campaign manager for Stand Up for Students, the group pushing yes on Question 2. He also works for the Maine Education Association Teachers Union. The passage of Question 2 would put a 3% tax surcharge on any income earned above the $200,000 mark.
When you're doing this, you're sending an economic message that is very damaging to the state.
Dana Connors, president of the Maine State Chamber of Commerce, says those high-income earners will leave Maine.
Those wealthy are probably people that are very mobile. They could go to Florida for 6 months a day, they could go to New Hampshire. And we can't afford to lose any of those people because they contribute to our economy in many ways.
Connors says there's a fundamental unfairness here.
85 out of 230 received $0. And 12% of those school systems receive 60% of the money.
They'll say 85 towns get nothing if this passes. What they don't tell you is almost half of those towns actually don't operate schools.
Kaczynski says Question 2 follows Maine's current formula for funding public schools. He thinks passing the question will attract more people to Maine.
If we want to grow and attract middle-class families to Maine, let's have the best public school system in the country.
Now, if Question 2 passes, the top 2% of income earners in Maine will pay one of the highest marginal tax rates in the nation. But according to the nonpartisan Maine Center for Economic Policy, rejecting Question 2 will push more of the tax burden onto the bottom 80% of income earners.
Another money issue is minimum wage, and depending on who you talk to, raising the minimum wage will either help or hurt the economy. If Question 4 passes, the statewide minimum wage would go up to $12 an hour by the year 2020.
DeMillo's Restaurant and Lounge has been a Portland institution for decades, but owner Steve DeMillo says the floating restaurant may not be able to sustain itself if Question 4 passes this election day. The proposed increase of the minimum wage is not DeMillo's problem with the ballot initiative.
If the tip credit was not on this bill, we wouldn't even be sitting here right now.
The tip credit allows restaurant owners to pay some staffers less than the minimum wage. If those workers don't make up the difference in tips, the restaurant pays the difference. Question 4 seeks to eliminate the tip credit by 2024. DeMillo estimates that would cost his business more than $500,000 a year.
If there was $500,000 on the bottom line, I would be retired by now. That's not the way a restaurant works. You know, it's a 4 to 5% bottom line. You hope for it. A lot of restaurateurs, they barely make their paycheck.
DeMillo says if you eliminate the tip credit, prices will go up and servers' wages will go down.
Our people don't want to work for $15 an hour or $12 an hour. That's crazy. When they make $20, $25, $30 an hour, why do they want a reduction in pay?
What we've found across the board is that people still tip.
Melissa Stevens of Lewiston is a former low-wage worker who is advocating for the yes on Question 4 side. Almost 6 years ago, she left an abusive relationship and moved back to Maine with her 3 children. Her first job paid her $8 an hour.
In making the right choice by leaving, I was throwing my family into poverty. And it was like I would just continue to be abused by a broken system. It's even less than hand to mouth. It's like you're always in the red.
Stevens is now earning higher wages and studying for a master's degree. DeMillo says low-wage jobs are not meant to be permanent.
The minimum wage is not intended to be making a living on it. It's an entry-level wage.
Maine voters will have to decide whether that entry-level wage is still too low. I'm Paul Merrill, WMTW News 8.
And there is more to come in our show tonight. In our next half hour, we'll hear from both candidates in the race for Maine's 1st congressional district.
And if you live in New Hampshire, you'll be choosing your next U.S. Senator. A look at Kelly Ayotte and Maggie Hassan after the break.
Commitment 2016, what you need to know on Channel 8 WMTW continues.
Thank you for joining us for our special Commitment 2016 report. I'm Steve Minnick.
I'm Megan Torgeson. Election day is just hours away, and we're breaking down the top races and the issues that you'll be voting on tomorrow.
Let's turn now to the race for Congress in Maine's 1st District. Democrat Chellie Pingree is facing a challenge from Republican Mark Holbrook, who is a newcomer to the political arena. Once again, here's WMTW News 8's political reporter, Paul Merrill.
Those kinds of strides are just phenomenal.
Sporting a Patriots tie and an American flag pin, Mark Holbrook met us in the downtown Brunswick gazebo he jokingly calls his office. He grew up in Brunswick and still lives here with his wife and daughter. Holbrook's resume includes a stint as a lobsterman and 12 years as a sheriff's deputy. Now he works as a clinical psychologist, and many of his clients are members of the law enforcement community. Holbrook launched his congressional campaign almost 2 years ago. He sees himself as a citizen legislator.
I didn't know there was a salary until November last year.
At an enormous fundraising disadvantage, Holbrook narrowly beat his primary opponent. The financial and name recognition challenges are even tougher against four-term Congresswoman Chellie Pingree.
This is a big mountain to climb, but we've known that from the get-go.
Holbrook says Pingree is too liberal. He disagrees with her on almost every issue, but he insists that doesn't mean he's too conservative.
Call me what you want, but I think I represent common sense, not, some extreme ideology.
Holbrook supports Donald Trump and agrees with his party's presidential nominee that our nation needs to temporarily close its borders to immigrants. What does Holbrook say to people who call that un-American?
They're nuts. That's a progressive liberal ideology that they're using whenever they want to stop discussing the facts.
Holbrook says people are tired of the status quo. Washington is broken, and Holbrook says the way to start to fix it is to send incumbents like Congresswoman Pingree packing.
Right now we have, this elite class of politicians that get in and it becomes their career for life. And I don't think it's serving our country very well. Once people see the difference, the choice will be easy for them to make.
Now we're going to take a closer look at Congresswoman Chellie Pingree, who is hoping to win her 5th term. We recently spoke with her about her record and her future.
Most of the time people are just really kind, really
To a lot of people, Chellie Pingree is sitting pretty. She's a 4-term incumbent with a huge fundraising advantage in a district that Democrats have held for 2 decades.
Wow,
Sitting on the Portland waterfront, she talked with us about what she'd like to see happen this election day.
I hope I'm lucky enough to be reelected, but I would really like to see either a change of leadership so it takes it out of the hands of the Republicans, or at least a closer balance so that people come back ready to work.
Pingree's 8 years in Washington have not marked a period that will be celebrated in history books. Partisan gridlock has lawmakers lurching from crisis to crisis. Pingree blames Republican leadership for the inaction, but tells us she's able to do good work in her role on the Budget Writing Appropriations Committee. She also says she's proud of the work she's done on rural economy issues. Pingree says agriculture affects everyone.
It's not Republican or Democrat. It's been of great benefit to the state of Maine, where we've seen some growth, but it's part of our tourism industry now.
The man who wants to send Pingree packing is Republican Mark Holbrook. The two are on completely different ends of the political spectrum, yet both describe themselves as common sense candidates. Pingree zeroes in on Holbrook's desire to temporarily close the nation's borders and his belief that global warming is a hoax cooked up by politicians.
I just think we view things very differently. I take science very seriously and think that we have to understand that there are dramatic changes going on, many of which are already having an impact here in Maine, and we can't bury our head in the sand.
Maybe 10% of lobsters in the state.
Pingree says Mainers who make their livings on the water see species leaving. She says political ideology is not what's changing our environment.
These are real issues. These aren't some sort of elitist left-wing issues. This is a very serious problem that we have to deal with today.
In Portland, Paul Merrill, WMTW News 8.
And still coming up, we head across the border to New Hampshire. Kelly Ayotte making her pitch to get reelected to the U.S. Senate.
And her opponent, Maggie Hassan, is making it a tough race, where she stands on education and what she says about the presidential race. We'll be right back.
In New Hampshire, Republican Senator Kelly Ayotte is facing a strong challenge from Democrat Maggie Hassan, who happens to be the current governor. Josh McKelvey from our sister station WMUR recently went on the road with Ayotte.
Oh, thanks so much.
First stop, the Bridge Cafe in Manchester, and immediately the owner hammers away on health care.
I know the Republicans don't like Obamacare, but what do they want to do instead of Obamacare?
Affordable Care Act says one kind of plan, more competition, more choice, more, I support more stronger flexible spending accounts, health savings accounts. And so going from a one-size-fits-all to more choice of different kind of plans you could pick, I think we've got to go in that direction.
Next stop, the Red Arrow Diner, where one voter tosses a question right in Ayott's wheelhouse.
I'm just really curious as to what you're going to do to help our veterans.
Oh gosh, passionate about this?
Yes.
Because I am too. My husband's a combat veteran, served in Iraq.
Another diner expresses his displeasure with the top of the ticket on both sides.
I wish we had better candidates, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, Trump and Hillary are my favorite people in the world.
Yeah,
so.
I'm running for Senate.
Okay.
So that's, there's other important positions, and my job is to be your voice, in D.C. specifically for New Hampshire.
After 6 years in the Senate, Ayotte has become a very public figure.
I'm Kelly. Michael. Nice to see you today, Michael. What's going on? Love it, yeah.
And it comes with a bit of celebrity that she handles with ease.
Do you live in Manchester?
Yeah, I live across the street there.
That's convenient. If I lived across the street, I'd eat here all the time.
Yeah. And when it comes to engaging voters, Ayotte says a favorite spot of hers is the grocery store.
You're wearing the baseball cap, you're hanging out, you're just like anyone else trying to get food for your family, but people will stop and chat with you about issues.
But you probably can't just duck in and out real quick either.
No, it takes longer than it used to shop at the grocery store. That's for sure.
Democrat Maggie Hassan is in her second term as New Hampshire's governor, but now she's taking on Ayotte for her Senate seat. Once again, here's Josh McLevine.
Good morning. How are you? Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
A warm welcome for Maggie Hassan inside Baked Restaurant in Manchester, but right away the manager expressed concern about the young people fleeing the state.
What kind of resolution would you?
Well, one of the things we know is that some of the reason we're losing the young people is because of the cost of higher education here. We hear that a lot. So we were able to freeze tuition in-state at the university for 2 years and lower it at our community colleges. And we're also doing a lot of things to make the overall price of a bachelor's degree more affordable for young people. We also know that young people want things like rail, they want public transportation, and they want to be able to live and work in the same areas.
Another employee went top of the ticket with her question, and Hassan gladly defended Hillary Clinton's record when it comes to kids.
And because of her early work, kids like my son, I have a 28-year-old with very severe cerebral palsy, were included in their community schools, right? And that's the type of devotion she's shown to causes bigger than herself. Hello, sir. How are you? Nice to see you. Yeah.
Joseph is a Vietnam vet supporting Donald Trump, but on veterans issues, he's willing to listen.
My dad was a World War II veteran, and so making sure that the system works for our veterans is really important to me, and I think it's something I'd like there to be a full-service hospital in New Hampshire, and I'd like to make sure that the Veterans Administration is working for everybody.
Patrick is worried about student debt, a problem that Hassan says she would address in part by expanding Pell Grants.
I also want students to be able to refinance their loans at a much lower rate, at the rate that people are being able to refinance for other things. And for new student loans, I want the rate to be lower. I don't think the federal government should profit from student loans, which right now it is.
And again, that was Josh McElveen reporting. And with Hassan leaving the governor's office, it is a three-way race to replace her. Democrat Colin Van Ostern, Republican Chris Sununu, and Libertarian Max Abramson. Sununu is the son of former New Hampshire Governor John Sununu.
Coming up, is Maine ready for ranked choice voting? Some of you may not know what it is or how it works. Well, we're going to break it down for you when we come back.
Welcome back. Early and absentee voting could be a key factor in what happens in this year's elections. When we visited Portland City Hall last Thursday, the wait was nearly 1 hour long. Data from the Secretary of State's office shows that more than 233,000 absentee ballots were returned this year here in Maine. That is a sharp increase from the last presidential election in 2012.
Now we turn to the final citizen-initiated referendum question 5, which asks Mainers if they want to institute ranked choice voting. Here's Paul Merrill to tell us what it means.
You never have to vote for a lesser of two evils when there's another candidate you like better. And
Kyle Bailey is the campaign manager for the Committee for Ranked Choice Voting. He says we need a better voting system than the one we have now.
Right now, we have candidates winning who don't get a majority. And in fact, there's probably some cases where candidates win who are opposed by a majority of voters.
In 9 of the last 11 Maine gubernatorial elections, the winning candidate received less than half of the votes cast. Ranked choice voting creates an instant runoff. If no one gets a majority of votes, the candidate with the lowest vote totals is eliminated, and the second choices on those ballots are tabulated.
I don't know that the voters understand how complicated and confusing this is.
They actually have...
State Representative Heather Siraki is fighting a one-woman crusade against ballot question 5. The Scarborough Republican says ranked choice voting undoes the principle of one person, one vote.
If people that voted for the third place finisher do not select a second place, they only want one candidate and they don't identify that they have a second or third choice, those ballots are eliminated.
In spite of what proponents say, Siraki says ranked choice voting actually increases strategic voting. Proponents also argue ranked choice voting forces candidates to campaign beyond their bases.
You as a candidate now go to a door for someone who may have a lawn sign for your opponent, knock on that door and have a conversation with that voter. Talk to them about the issues, understand where they're coming from and why they are supporting that candidate.
I'm not sure that the voters are more informed with ranked choice voting. It seems like maybe the candidates would be less clear and forthcoming with their position on issues.
Some municipalities, notably Portland, already have ranked choice voting. But if question 5 passes, Maine would be the first state to adopt the system. I'm Paul Merrill, WMTW News 8.
And there is one extra ballot question that is not getting a lot of attention, and that is question 6. It is a bond issue which asks if you favor a $100 million bond for road, highway, and bridge construction, reconstruction, and rehabilitation. Among the other points, if it passes, the federal government will match it with $137 million bond.
Lots of decisions, and you may have a few questions left about an election, like where your nearest polling place is.
Or maybe you don't have a way to get to the polls. We have all of that coming up. This is Commitment 2016, what you need to know. We'll be right back.
You're watching Commitment 2016, what you need to know, live on Channel 8, WMTW.
Welcome back. Tomorrow, Americans will elect a new president, and Mainers will decide who we will send to Congress.
We'll also be deciding on several key ballot questions, so it's important that you get out and vote. Can't stress that enough. And if you feel like you need to do a little more homework before you do that, go to WMTW.com. We have a page that gives you the basics on the key races, plus informative videos on the ballot questions. There's also information on polling locations. Take a look. Use it as a resource before you go out and vote tomorrow.
And if you are looking for a free and easy way to get to the polls, make sure you take advantage of free rides on Metro bus service. Those free rides will be available on all routes, including Metro Breeze. That's the new express service between Portland, Falmouth, Yarmouth, and Freeport. The free bus rides to the polls will also be available in Bangor and with many transit services across the country.
And don't forget, we'll have you covered on election night on air and online with reporters live at all the major campaigns here in Maine. Plus, we're going to be live streaming on Facebook all night starting at 8 p.m. and take coverage with you on the go on our WMTW mobile app. You can make sure you have the push alerts turned on so you get the results as soon as we get them, as soon as they come into our newsroom. So on Election Day, you have the opportunity to make your voice heard.
And we hope this program has helped you make the choice that you face tomorrow a little easier.
For Channel 8, I'm Megan Torgerson.
And I'm Steve Minnick. Have a good night. We will see you later this evening on WMTW News 8 at 11.